Welcome once again into Inside LAFC podcast. I am Max. Jordan Harvey joining us as well. We have a very special show. We'll get into all of it. We know you guys are chomping at the bit to see some LAFC action. They will be back at it this Saturday against Orlando City. Big road trip ahead for them. We'll also be joined by Giorgio Chiellini, who is part of LAFC's staff with player development. He's also got a very exciting extra job this summer. We'll discuss all of that. So you're in a good spot. And Jordan, great to be with you again. This is what's it been like? You've got everyone had a little time off, recharge the batteries, and now they're back looking to pick up where they left off.
I don't know what you mean by everybody had time off. We've been plugging away with LAFC 2. LAFC 2 now has time off, and so I'm kind of hoping to jump more into the first team action. So it's been awesome. This year has been ups, downs, everything in between, and the first team right now is just on a very good stretch. So hoping to continue that.
And we'll talk about that because it came at a unique time because LAFC are tearing it up, and we'll mention about how they have to kind of find a way to kick things back. But let's just talk about getting back from the break. And there's a lot of play here. You know, when you mention guys, some guys did have time to just exhale, get things back mentally, physically. Some other guys are out for an international duty, and there's a long list of them that'll be coming back. Denny Buanga's with Gabon, Omar Campos with the under-23s of Mexico. Maxime Chanot is with Luxembourg, and when he played, he got to play against Olivier Giroud, and two big games. He'll be back, and then we have to wait. Kike Oliveira will be with Uruguay for the Copa America, and then we'll have to wait about Timothy Tillman. So it's not a perfect re-entry, but you're at the PC and you work with these guys. How's the best way to do it? How's the best way to get back in training and kind of give that impression that while some guys were able to exhale a little bit, but we're back onto the treadmill getting going.
Yeah, even I don't know if you mentioned Bouanga with Gabon. They're playing Gambia tonight.
World Cup qualifier, big game.
Luca Bombino with the under-19 U.S. youth national team. So, yeah, there's a ton of call-ups. It's been interesting to track, and I actually don't go on social media that often, but to see the guys and where they ventured off to in this week, because everybody inevitably sees it coming, staff, players, and they try to plan something to just have a mental break. So people went down to Mexico. They took day trips down to San Diego. It was interesting to see that. But from the players who continued to play, from I think LAFC standpoint, it's to see that they get opportunities, and then the hopes that they don't get an injury, right? Knock on wood. That's a major thing. And you talked about reintegrating these players into the group. It's, reassessing or assessing where they're at, how many games, how many minutes they've had, and then how they can jump right in. A lot of the guys have either games tonight or tomorrow. And so with the game in Orlando, you have guys like Timothy Tillman who, may just even stay in Orlando because the travel back and then back to Orlando. And then it's a quick turnaround to Austin midweek. So the team will most likely stay on the road. So it's taking all these things into account, communicating with the players who are with the national teams, where they're traveling from. You said Max Chanot, he's coming from, I think it's Belgium.
Yep.
You have some guys domestically here, but what does that travel look like? How do they feel? And take it from there. Our sports performance staff does a very good job in managing these players. And so we're going to need them over the next couple of weeks with the amount of games coming up. So it's trying to reintegrate them without putting them at risk for injury.
It's crazy when we know Denny's going to want to come back and play, but coming back from West Africa and getting him in there, being on airplanes is challenging. Maxime Chanot, big flight all the way from Europe, even though he did play there, I believe it was like Monday or Tuesday. So he'll have time, but you still got to adjust. So it won't feel like a break for a lot of these guys, but they bring all this back to the club, which is incredibly valuable. As we mentioned, Maxime could probably bring back his conversation with Olivier Giroud, who will be with France. And we can't forget about him because once the Euros run their course and he has a little time off, he'll be an LAFC player. And MLS has been very proud because they've listed over 100 players that will be representing their national teams, either at Euros or Copa America. So it's a wonderful achievement. But everyone buckle up because now this stretch is going to be insane for everyone who participates or consumes soccer in this country. And now for Steve Cherundolo, and I hope he got some time off. I'm sure it was a limited amount of time because he's trying to piece it all together. It's about maintaining momentum. And we talked with him after the Dallas game, and we said, someone asked him that in the press pantry, and he said, momentum's gone. He didn't make any bones about it. It's gone. Whatever we do is going to be different than how we ended it. Yes, we have this winning streak, this 5-game winning streak. We want to keep that going, but we're going to have to find different ways because we know some guys are either not going to play or play a smaller role because of this international duty. When you see him at training, how do you flick a switch a bit to kind of mimic momentum and to remind players of how well they were playing prior to this break?
Yeah, for me, it was always a case of wanting to go into a break on a positive note. I agree with Steve. The momentum's not there. It's been a week, but to go into it feeling good and then coming back with that same good feeling. Well, it's not momentum. It's just going, all right, we won before this. Now we're coming back into a good stretch. It's preparation for that big stretch. You're getting players back. So it's just feeling good about it because sometimes if you go into a break with a loss or, a difficult spell, you come back into an environment that you want to hit the reset button, but it's difficult. And so with the form that the team has been on, it's a matter of just continuing that and not doing anything different. I think the coaching staff has done a very good job of keying in this year our principles and our game model. And so this break, while it was nice, I think now you'll have a lead up of getting back to that, wanting to control games, having more possession. I think you've seen in these results, which is different than years prior, certainly when I was playing, the team has been able to grind out really good results, 1-0, 2-0. And that is where the confidence lies, I think, in knowing that you've done it in the past where you get a lead and you close shop and you can keep that lead. That's where the confidence is. And that's where I think going into this stretch, they'll rely on knowing that defensively very sound. And I think the last goal that they gave up was against Las Vegas in Vegas. So it's a good stretch. And while maybe no momentum, the confidence is always going to be there.
I asked this to Beta, and it's a great point. You don't want to go into the break with a loss, but with winning these games, is there that feeling of, hey, we got it going now. Let's keep it going. And obviously you're going to lose that, but is even going into the break knowing you don't want to lose, but going, all right, we have this going. We'd hate to leave this here, but we got to.
Yeah. Yes. With that said, you always look at the silver lining. So it's getting guys back from injury. We talked about David Martinez. He's a player who, before he went into this injury, he was really coming into his own. So just excited about the new players coming in. And with each week, we're closer to Giroud getting here and getting closer to full strength. And I think that's the energy that I think this building is kind of capturing. Aside from a break, I think it's when you go into a break and a stretch of games where it's all positive, you're okay with the break based on you're now going to get guys healthy, get guys back, and you have another period where you can hone in on your game model and principles. So, you can look at it in a negative light, but I think with the stretch that we've been doing, it's all positive.
Yeah, we see David Martinez working hard to get back, and that's a great point because a lot of people look at him to pick up some of those Kike minutes. So all good on that front. And again, Steve Cherundolo said when we also asked him, was this at a good time for the break? He said yes. And it was mainly due because of that core group of players. There's like 7 or 8 guys who've played almost every minute or have played every minute of the game, and now they can get back at it. You mentioned the last goal scored. Well, we'll talk. It was the Las Vegas game, but the last league goal was the own goal by Denny Bouanga against the San Jose Earthquake. So I did the math, Jordan.
Yeah.
I got out the calculator. It was pretty easy. It was 5 games plus 31 minutes, 481 minutes without conceding a goal. I know sometimes you don't want to look at that too much, but you're a defender. You've got to stop and go, that's pretty awesome, man.
No,
we want to protect that.
Yeah, of course. It's amazing. I think this club historically has scored a lot of goals. And even in years where the defense has been good, the focus has always been on how many goals LAFC can score and the amount of opportunities and the XG, all of that. So it is nice to put a little focus on how collectively well LAFC is doing defensively and not conceding goals and eliminating really a lot of opportunities even. And when we talk about getting back to the game model and controlling games, I think you've seen at halftime in most of these games, the possession numbers are up and LAC is controlling games. But as the game unfolds, you've seen Steve Toronto a very, very pragmatic approach where you close up shop and then maybe at the end of the game, those possession numbers aren't necessarily fair to view based on just now locking it down and conceding some of that possession numbers. So I think overall the group is doing well. And these numbers just indicate that the team is very together and united and compact defensively.
I love what you said about the pragmatic approach, because being a fan of this sport and you see these teams that win 1-0 or 2-0, they're usually successful when you don't give up goals. And we don't know how long this streak is going to go, but when you look at the scores, as I did, you're like, okay, this is good habits. I mean, this is it. Is it a better recipe for success than being a team that wins 3-2 or gives up some goals? And it's obviously got to get into the mind of these opponents that it's such a team to crack. And I also want to add this: late game moments where LAFC have come up big for someone to make a big defensive play or Hugo to make the save to protect it. It seems like this is, I mean, I don't know if it's going to keep going to 500-600 minutes, but it feels like the clean sheets are going to be something of the regular for this club, and having that defensive wherewithal is going to be something as well, which will add to wins at the end of the season.
I think where it's important for me is just building that confidence that if you get a goal, you can win a game. I think in years prior, you get a goal and you keep pushing to try to get 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's great. And that's entertaining. Fans love that. But what these wins show is come playoff time, you have the capability of getting a goal, locking it down, moving on to the next round. And that's what the group showed in 2022, that ability to really drop into a mid or a low block and concede possession, but soak it up. We talk about, suffering a bit and being able to just be in your compact shape, eliminate opportunities, but concede possession and suffer in just defending. This group can do that. And that really bodes well for playoff time. You've seen the best teams that can do that really have success in the playoffs. And when it's not the 3-2s where, you're giving up a goal and you feel like you have to score multiple goals to win, that's where you start to get stretched. That's where people make different decisions that, aren't for necessarily the collective. And when you have a group like this, and this stretch is going to, even if you go into a run where this doesn't happen, at least the group knows based on this stretch of not conceding in 481 minutes that they can do it. And this is roughly a playoff run, right? That amount of games, that amount of minutes. So it's possible, and that will bring confidence going into a playoff run for sure.
Yeah, and another part about not conceding is that you're not chasing a game. They've not had to chase it, which is something they did have to do. And that'll pop up at some point. They'll find themselves trailing a game, and they will adjust. But what a good habit or habits they have developed over this stretch as they now go on a road trip. Road tripping, baby. They did something similar where they hadn't had the road win just a few weeks ago. They were able to get the win in St. Louis. This was the beginning of it all, right? This was where we saw this club start to kick it in gear, get into good habits, get very, very difficult to break down. They won in St. Louis. They won in Atlanta. Two very pragmatic games, mind you. So they'll look to do it again. It starts with Orlando on Saturday. And then Wednesday, they'll be in Austin. So they'll make their way back. They're not going to come back all the way up to LA, but just like they did, it'll be a chance for players to spend some time together on the road, which I know is very valuable. And that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you. You don't want to do it all the time. You want to be very comfortable, but there are these opportunities. The schedule, it's not perfect, I imagine, from LAFC's perspective to have that kind of run coming in, but it is what it is. It starts with Orlando, a club that LAFC's had a lot of success against. You go back to 2022, the championship year, they went there. Orlando wanted to really peg back LAFC, and LAFC went on to win it 4-2. I remember Ilie Sanchez's goal. But that is it's June. It's going to be hot. I checked. It could be rainy. So it's good. This is, when you talk about the MLS road trip, this is one of them. You talk about altitude. You talk about the cold winter, heat in Florida or Texas. This is one of them. But just for you, about as a team getting together on the road, which LAFC will have an opportunity. How do you make the most of this opportunity? And starting off with Orlando, is that one that you kind of circle on your calendar, go, this is one we're going to have to sweat a little bit, literally, to get a result?
Yeah, and you make really good points there. First, just being on the road. Over the last few years since the pandemic, all the teams charter, all the teams fly in, they fly out right after the game. While that's great, and I enjoyed that, having a family over the last 4 years into my career, it was great to be back home, sleep in your own bed, all of those things. But the con to that is you don't have that team moment where you can, after a game, hang out, not go have a drink, but just be able to bond with the guys, right? Go do something together that then builds trust, builds chemistry, and that absolutely translates onto the field. So every team, since 2020, the league has done it where they've tried to schedule these road trips in close succession, knowing that maybe once, twice a year, you'll have to be on the road an extended period of time. I see this again as a positive. I think the team going on the road, being able to get into Orlando, go over to Austin and have some time together, maybe go out for a team meal, different things like that, that you don't get to do on a regular basis. And cities that, and I know Beta's been on here a lot, but there's different cities that really foster good environments because everyone's in close proximity. When I was in Vancouver, everybody lived downtown. It was easy to go, hey, let's go to this spot. It was 5 minutes away from everybody. LA is difficult. Everybody's very spread out. You have players living South Bay or Pasadena, and that's just too far day in, day out to really bring guys together. It needs to be very intentional, which guys have done. But being on the road, it's very organic and it happens very natural that you're able to hang out for an extended period of time, really get to know the guys. And that, again, builds a lot of trust. The difficulty of playing on the road, to your second point, in locations like Orlando and Austin, that is just going to be a case of guys are going to have to step up. You're not going to be able to play the same 11 each game. You're going to be using your bench maybe earlier on than you would normally like, so that guys are wet rested for the next game. I've done this so many times in my career. The last one that just pops out to me was in 2018, going from New York, a hot game, and we started the same lineup, Open Cup quarterfinal or semifinal against Houston. And it was very difficult. That's essentially East Coast, humid, New York coming into Texas, again, very humid. And those back-to-back games are very difficult. And I think in hindsight, maybe we would have rotated a bit more in the prior game in New York. And so maybe you'll see something like that with this Orlando, Austin back-to-back games away from home in difficult climates. So, I think getting through that, you're getting guys back, as we mentioned at the top of this podcast. and guys who have been in Orlando. So guys will be more acclimated, like Timothy Tillman. And then, I think everybody just sees, and I look at the schedule and I love to map it out, kind of block by block or month by month. And you see the San Jose at home, you have, I think it's Colorado. And then you see this July 4th game around the corner in LA Galaxy, which is going to be amazing. So all these games are going to happen very quick. It's going to be like a flash of the eye, but these two in particular, you'll see a little bit of rotation, but guys have good opportunities. It's great. It's really great.
July is crazy, Jordan. You mentioned it. It kicks off with July 4th, which is on a Thursday, which is kind of weird, which kind of is a little funky for the schedule. We got the following week, you got U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals. It's at home. And then you got Leagues Cup. I don't want to think about it because it's going to be
Well, this road trip will be awesome, and it'll be something to really focus on. And there's a lot of positives that come from it. And it is great that the group has kind of went on a run on the road, starting in St. Louis, to now go into these two road games with confidence, knowing that they can do it.
It's hot everywhere, with the exception of us out here. So, whether it's Florida or Texas, we saw the game. The USA was playing Colombia. It was 90s there in Maryland. It's hot in New York. It's hot so it's hot. It's summertime. We get a little bit of a respite here with this June gloom. So enjoy it. And Jordan, I have a really good restaurant recommendation for the guys in Orlando. It's called Disney World.
God. Oh, that's the last place I would recommend anyone going to.
Can you imagine? That is not on the calendar.
That's triggering. An Orlando Disney World trip. That is. You need a week off after something like that. That's worse than back-to-back road trips.
I'm sure some of the foreign players that haven't been here very long would like to take a peek, but that's not on the cards. And I will say, you play the game Saturday, you probably get out Saturday, and then you have downtime Sunday, Monday, Tuesday before that Austin game. So to your point, there's a lot of time to get together and build closer bonds. It's a significant amount of time. So they're gonna I'm sure have it all planned out and seize the moment, and hopefully they do very well. And depending on what happens on that road trip, or maybe not, we have seen LAFC get a target on their back, and I am sure that Orlando in particular are ramping up this game because they have struggled. They were one of the favorites in the preseason. They have 4 wins thus far. They've made some big signings like Luis Muriel, the gentleman from Seattle. I can't remember his name. It'll come back to me. But they have a loaded team. Duncan McGuire is a great forward. This is a team that had aspirations. They've been knocked down a peg. The season's still young, and now they can really kickstart it if they beat LAFC. Austin, to a lesser degree, Nico Lodero. Thank goodness you're here. Austin, to a lesser degree, but they're starting to play well, and I can only imagine if Orlando or Austin beat LAFC that their season is off and running. But this is something LAFC is used to. And maybe it's always the case, but now this is a marquee win. And now LAFC know, even though they've incorporated new players, that they have that. How much of that is that something that we feel with just being part of LAFC, that anytime someone beats this club, it's huge for them, and that it's a heavier burden in some ways for the black and gold to play with?
And that's been happening very early on. Which is great. And something that I joke about a lot, and you'll probably get a kick out of this, is as a player, and then even now moving into the front office, I watch is whenever teams come to LA, the coaching staff of that team, the head coach of that team that comes into LA is always dressed to the nines. So always is wearing a suit, always is like, and that
I
is,
didn't notice that. That's awesome.
Win. For that, that's a win. That's going, all right, I'm stepping into LAFC, BMO Stadium, 3252. I'm going to wear my suit because it warrants that. It deserves that. And so that's a sign of respect that I love seeing. And so just remember that next time you see a game at BMO, see what the head coach is wearing from the opposing team, and chances are he's wearing a suit, where maybe prior at home it's a tracksuit, something maybe more casual. So that's something just to show that you're right on the money as far as LAFC being the target, and people recognize when they play LAFC that they have to bring more. And on the road, I think it's slightly different because all teams have confidence at home. And prior to the St. Louis game, I think teams were coming into games against LAFC when LAFC would come on the road and maybe not thinking as much. But now I think with the run that LAFC's on, it'll be back into that vein of, all right, they're in good form. They get a goal, they lock it down. We're going to have to bring our A game. And that's something that all teams do. Any players that I've played against, they recognize kind of a little bit more pressure in that game, given that maybe there's more eyeballs on it. So yeah, it's real. But I think it's a sign of respect. And I think going into those games, it raises the expectation and it raises the level from everybody at LAFC. So if you have a guy, our latest signing from LAFC2, Tommy Musto, he needs to keep that standard now. And he steps into a kind of an environment that he needs to step up, and players get better when pressured and pushed. And, I remember a long time ago, and I don't want to go too far into this, but when I was in Vancouver coming to LA Galaxy, and they had the Keane, the Donovans, they had the superstars, and they were doing very well. And it brings a lot more pressure going into those games. And I think that's what players and teams feel coming into LAFC.
Brilliant. It's and if LAFC can keep winning these away games, it's going to feel like the 2022 where they're churning out these wins. We'll see what happens. This is going to be a fun couple games, so we get a better idea of where the club is at. Although things are great. Again, 5-game winning streak, 481 minutes without a goal. We mentioned the busy summer, Jordan. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention the Euros start on Friday. Following weekend, it's the Copa America. I mean, I'm not a player, but I'm going to be watching these games, and I am terrified because I don't know where I'm going to find the time, because it's going to be morning into the evening. What is that dynamic like with you? You'll be there. I mean, sometimes you'll be training and maybe a game's on and a big moment happens in the Euros. Obviously, you're invested as an American watching the United States play here, and so many others are. So many players, whether they're with a national team or have been part of it, have a connection to so many of these national teams. Or no, this is unprecedented because you have both of them at the same time. How do you think that's going to manifest itself? Because it is, in some way.
Yeah. So, like, as far as what it looks like here, as you can imagine, the staff has soccer on nonstop. So you have Oka, the goalkeeper coach. He has the German league on every day.
And the Euros will be in Germany, so he's definitely invested.
And so my point is that all the screens will have games on. There's a little lounge area here upstairs at the Performance Center that will have a game on nonstop. So it'll be just a trickling in of people sitting down, kind of moving in and out. But everybody's going to be tuning in. It's just how it is, similar to when there's a World Cup mid-season in 2018. Like everybody tunes in to watch the players that you have on your team. Back then it was Carlos Vela, it was Laurent Simon, and now you'll have Giroud, which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
And so it's tuning into all these games. It's everybody here loves soccer. So we're all going to be watching. This road trip is actually going to be something that will probably be great for the guys, because they'll be able to sit back and actually soak up some of these games where, in the chaos of going home and having wives and kids that maybe don't want soccer on 24/7, it might be nice for guys. So I know I struggle with controlling the remote, and I end up watching half the games on an iPad. So, maybe on this road trip, guys will be able to enjoy some of these games. And everybody's infectious with this stuff. We all love it.
Jordan, that is a perfect point. And Saturday, when they'll be in Orlando, they'll wake up, they get 3 games from the Euros. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. There you go. Nice little breakfasts. Plus, they'll be out east, so it won't be 6 a.m. for us out here on the wood. We got to wake up at 6 a.m. to watch these games.
Yeah.
Or 5 a.m. And then so ease on into it. A nice cup of coffee. It's going to be great for the team.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Sit around with the group watching some football.
Life is good.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Yeah, everybody's going to be very relaxed.
Good.
Good conversation.
Great stuff, Jordan. You know, Giorgio is going to be working with, they just announced he's going to be part of the Fox crew that's covering the Euros. So I'm going to ask him a little bit about that and about some other things because I know you get to work with them. But enjoy the summer. We're in it now, Jordan, okay?
Yeah, I can't wait to watch Giorgio. He had told me this a little bit back, and so really exciting. That guy is busy, man. I mean, for a guy who's been retired, that guy is traveling, doing all sorts of things, and always here at the PC. So, man, what a great addition he was on the field and now off the field. It's been amazing, but can't wait to see Giorgio on the
great stuff. Great stuff, Jordan. And as busy as Giorgio is, he will be joining us next right here on Inside LAFC Podcast.
Inside LAFC Podcast is presented by Freeway Insurance, driving savings.
We are back here on Inside LAFC Podcast, and so is Giorgio Chiellini, who was so wonderful a year ago. I know we bothered you a lot, Giorgio, but you were absolute gold on the podcast.
I'm very happy to be here. It's a pleasure to join you, Max, and let's start. I'm very happy and excited.
Well, I'm very excited because we have a lot of ground to cover because there's a lot of exciting things happening in your world. But let us start with what you're doing with LAFC. I know a lot of people know you're affiliated with the club after you retired after the MLS Cup. Player development coach. Tell us a little bit what that means for you.
Yeah, for me, it's like an internship in this month. I'm trying to help with my presence here at the facilities and to be in the middle within players and with players and coaches or whatever, try to give my opinions in some topics that we had in these last months. And I'm also trying to build for myself another area that I didn't know is about business part, all the sponsorships things. And then I'm trying to go into that quarter and part, not just on the John Torrington side, but also in the Larry Friedman side, just for myself to grow up and to help with what I can do.
Even today, Giorgio, if you wanted to be an executive for a club, I imagine many clubs would be like, where do we sign up for this?
No. Yeah. Well, it's a long trip, but I'm very happy to have started here.
But something that you would see for yourself in the future is to be an executive at the club, overseeing a lot more stuff.
Yes, I like to not just about the sports side to the side players or whatever, is to be much more involved on the above everything to main decisions, strategic decision, and then I really want to know more about all the things that are happening in that quarter that are very far from what I was able to also to smell, not just to see. And that's something that I really want to discover as soon as possible to feel my knowledge.
And John Thornton's a great role model for that, no? Because he was a decorated player for the United States, and then he made that transition, and it took some years, and now he's the boss man here at LAFC along with Larry.
Yes, he's a really good guy first for me. He took care of me for everything. I'm so grateful to John. It's a good example that the transition from player to executive and is the reference, is the face of LAFC. It's unbelievable how it is continuing to have the ability to do a good job in the business side and for owners or whoever, and for the fans on the sports side. It's not easy to maintain so consistently. It's a very good example for me.
Let's talk about the players because right now they're developing very well. When you mention player development, I immediately think, is it younger players? But this is even guys that are a little older looking to take that next step where you can help them?
I think just some discussion about what's happening, some advice that could happen. I don't want to for any relationship, obviously, with the player that was in last year's. It is easy arrive and just with a couple of sentences help to understand some problem. But I'm trying to build also the relationship with player that has already arrived, and I think that my way of be a man. I'm trying to be warm with everyone, but telling every time the truth. I'm very happy with the relation that I established with all the people here. Uh, it's a step by step. I'm building my journey, my second life, and I also have to discover the better way to be effective and.
Well, Giorgio, everybody, because of the career you have, whether you want to acknowledge it, was amazing, right? You winning, representing Italy, 9 championships for Juventus, playing, making that move to LAFC. So your advice is very viable. What have you seen about just sitting down with players and shooting straight, as you said, about, hey, this is what's required. These are my experience, and how you're able to convey that?
Yeah, that's something that I like to do. Is I think it's not easy to understand sometimes. We have to think about player, not just about the performance on the 90 minutes. There is something much more behind that things, and I always try to understand what's going on in order to really help and arrive to the right point. It's not easy, and yeah, also coaches are doing a good job on that, trying to work into some weakness that we have and we could improve. I continue to improve until my last game, and I try to improve until my last game, and that it's not just about age; it's about volunteer, and then it's a big part of every players try to improve, try to be better, and try to, much more important, trying to be helpful for the team. That every performance, every single players is much more important if they're able to bring something that help the team, that help the teammates that are playing close to you. And especially getting older is something that you need to have. It's not just about your performances. What about your presence help all the people around you to play better? After 30, you start to think also about that.
Well, that's interesting, Giorgio, because that makes a lot of sense, because you went through that, and someone who's maybe 30, 31 in their playing career looks to go, hey, Giorgio, how did you manage this process where you could be so effective at the end of your career, 37, 38? That's important, because players are playing longer, or they want to play longer, and they can play longer if they do it the right way.
Yes, and also with all the knowledge that now we have about nutrition, recover, and everything, it's easier to play longer. Also, a good amount of luck we need about injuries, but it's part of the life. Injuries, you have to be able to manage it, and at the end, at the end of the career, and you have to hope and be lucky to have less injury as possible, especially surgery.
Giorgio, when you were a young player, you're 19, 20, how long did you think you were going to play? Did you think you would play till 37, 38, 39?
No, my expectation, not when I was really an adolescent, but much older, like 25, going close to the 30, I think, okay, 34, probably 35. That's the average age in which you finish to play and retire, and your performance are dropping. But to be honest, I had my best years of my career from 33 to 35, in which my best performances. After that, I had the ACL at 35, and was not easy to come back, was not easy to find consistency because of injuries after the ACL. But I did it. It was not the same, but it was good enough, and really enjoyed until my last game in Columbus.
Oh, brilliant. And by the way, Giorgio, if that didn't happen, we wouldn't be here talking, and I would have never got to know you. And the fans at LAFC would have never seen you play and win an MLS Cup and make another MLS Cup. So,
Yeah.
see, the golden years are the best ones. And as a player now, a player development, how have you seen the team? Because the results have been great. 5 straight wins. They're about to go on a road trip.
Finally, we were able to change our mentality on the road. At home, to be honest, our fans, all the environment there is in this stadium is too easy for us arrive and push ourselves and do our best. And really, we deserved to win almost all the games. Also, we tied some games. Was a good enough performance, and we had very good chances to win the game. On the road, we started very bad. I think it was much more a mental problem than not physical or tactical problem. We were much more solid in the last games, and the end. Also, when you are solid and with the right attitude, a little bit of lucky follow these things, and we did a very good job. We are in a beautiful streak. Unfortunately, we were stopped by the national window, but I think also we needed a little bit of rest because we pushed it hard. We spent a lot of energy on the last streak of games. That is not everything arrived in the wrong moment. Now we have another week very hard ahead. The Orlando, Austin, and then San Jose. Will be tough games on the road, especially because it's predicted and expected very hot in Orlando and Austin. And I still remember the game in Nashville. My first game was unbelievable, but also last summer in Houston was a crazy game. Right after, very close to the final against Leon, we played in Houston. It was unbelievable, the humidity that we have there. Then we have to be prepared, but there are 2 important games because we have to think ahead at the end of the season when we have to try to arrive as higher as possible in the table because we know how much is different play at home for us in the playoff.
I remember when they interviewed you after the game. It was Nashville, it's hot. You're like, and now it's June, and they're going to Florida, and they're going to Texas, so they're going to deal with the heat. But they have that mentality, which is great news. You've got to be happy about the defending too. I mean, it happened quick. They were struggling, and then they figured it out. What have you seen from the team defending?
But it was much more on the set pieces or moments in which you have to be balanced during the game when you have the ball, when you're attacking. It's just a click sometimes, but you really have to want it. And we struggled too much in the first months. I was also sad and angry about after some games because we really wasted some games in the beginning of the year on the road with little details. Really, we could have changed and had much more point in the first 2 months. But we really needed a strong game, and it was in St. Louis. And after that, obviously, all the other games. I still remember that game. That was a good start for us for change this type of mentality. And now we are keep going on this direction. It's not hard. Obviously, we cannot have this type of streak for all the season, but we have to understand very well what we did before this type of games. What was our approach before this game? Because after probably in the next months, we will have another difficult period. That is normal. I think that also in the best season, 1 or 2 tough moment is something predictable. And we have to be able to switch as soon as possible and refound the right way and the right result and the good pathway.
But good habits are forming. And I want to change the subject a little bit here, Giorgio, because 4 years ago, when you were 34, 35, there was a very interesting tournament you were in. It's coming Rome.
It's coming Rome, and it was just 3 years. Imagine it's just 3 years.
Right.
Yeah, but because it was postponed because of pandemic, and 3 years seems a life ago, but yes, I was there. We arrived with a lot of hope, uh, because we were at the end after a year and a half in which we really did very well, but we knew that a lot of teams were better than us. But it's starting to have fans again after 1 year that we played without fans, and it started in Rome. That was very good for our confidence. We started at our home with just 20% of the stadium, but this seems full, more than full. And we started winning, and then that's helped our confidence. And then when we started knockout games, the round of 16, we were a little bit lucky. I still remember Arnautovic against Austria, round of 16, was offside by inches, and was called by VAR after he scored. That was a turning point, a sliding doors of our tournament and also our career. But after that, we played very well. Obviously, we won 2 games at the PK. That is something that you could win, you could lose. But overall, I think that we deserve to win this trophy.
You did 3 years ago, lifting the trophy, and now Giorgio, 3 years later, you'll be working with Fox covering the tournament as a reigning champion. And you'll be seeing if Italy can get back and repeat as champions. But tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing with Fox and how excited about doing what we do for a living.
Yes, I'm excited because I really want to be part of the US soccer culture. And commentating in the studio here in LA for the Euros after winning the last European competition, the last Euros competition, is something fun, challenging, because I did it in Italian for Champions League in the last years, but I never did it in English. My English is good, but at the end also is something new that I want to know, also a different way of comment soccer, because we are doing a different thing. Sometimes we have some topics different from US. That is also for me a discovering new things, and really looking forward to starting and to understanding better what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because we do things differently here, and to learn about that is a great way to approach it. And it all starts Friday. I know everyone around the club is going to be watching these games, right? We were talking to Jordan Harvey.
Yeah.
This is a big deal. When they're on the road, they get to watch the national teams play early in the morning, and that helps, right, for the players and coaches to have those moments together.
Yes, and also we have Copa America that is arriving and is playing in US this summer. That will be beautiful. In the morning you have Euros, in the evening, afternoon and evening you have Copa America. Yeah, for imagine to be a kid that loves soccer, adolescent that loves soccer. You could stay all the day watching soccer. It's amazing moment. I'm very happy to be part of this family of these happenings now in US from the US soccer, and not just on Italian provider TV or whatever.
Thanks for saying that, Giorgio, because I'm thinking about as an old man, and all these games I go, I can't do it. But the kids get to watch soccer, really good soccer, over and over all day.
That's fantastic.
That is. So let's talk Euros really quickly. France are the favorites. They got an LAFC player, Olivier Giroud. We'll get to see him. So everyone for LAFC, tune in and pull for France a little bit. England's there. That's the team you guys beat in the final 3 years ago. The Italians, Portugal. Who do you like?
I think for my first tier is, as you said, France, England, and Portugal. First tier by far. They have better roster. They have a good also group that is not new, but they're really ready to win. England is waiting from years winning this trophy. Portugal won in 2016, but they changed the coach, and they have really a good group in all the position, and a good mix of experience and young players, and also some depth from the bench. But at the end, France is by far the favorite with all the roster, experienced guy, young player. They have a good coach that has already won the World Cup in 2018. That I think that these three teams are one step better than the other one. I could say second tier could be I don't Germany, because they're a good team and playing at home. Spain, that is not the same team and quality team as some years ago, but it's still a very good team. And after that, you could put in the third tier other team like Italy, Netherlands. I don't know. You could add Croatia or whatever, but it's not the same level as the other one. I don't think to forget any big teams. Please help me, Max, if I
Belgium, maybe.
Third. Not the second for me. Not
No,
anymore.
I think you nailed it. I think you nailed the top tier. I mean, I don't think there's anyone you left out. I was going to ask for a surprise team, but maybe I'll phrase it differently. Do you think it's going to be some surprises in the field, or the big teams are going to make it through?
Surprise during tournament, yes. Teams that could arrive farther in the competition, yes. I don't think that one of the team I don't mention could win the trophy, to be honest. Maybe arrive to quarterfinal, maybe to the semifinal, like Denmark did it 3 years ago. And Denmark is a good example of an underdog that arrived close. But I don't think that one team that I didn't mention could win the Euros. I hope to be wrong, because there's something exciting, some teams that you don't expect, like was Greece in 2004. The would be amazing for fans. Yeah, Greece 2004. But I don't think so.
Well, I would say 2016 you had Wales make the semis and Iceland make the quarters. So they weren't going to win it, but they got a little. They got close.
But I told you, could arrive to semifinal Wales. Yes. Could arrive to Denmark, to semifinal Denmark. Yes. But they didn't win, and it's not the case. Yeah, it's not lucky that they didn't win. They reached their best. They reached almost a miracle for Wales, but also to Denmark. I don't think they could win again. But 1992, Denmark won. 2004, Greece won. That you can never. You could expect some big surprise. I don't expect.
Not at the end. I don't expect it either. Just checking. But we're all expecting a fun month and the Copa America. 100%. The Euros start Friday. Germany, we know Oka is going to be watching. They play Scotland. You know, Steve, who plays along in Germany, they'll look. I don't know. I don't have a pick. I'll have a pick in a day. I'll tweet it out. We'll get your pick. Do you have? We're not no picks here right now, but you have a good idea about what's going to happen.
Yes, I could tell you France.
France, me too.
It's me France, too. But one of the first star.
Okay.
It's depend also. It's depend of the journey. You cannot know the draw and what's happening. I don't know, but sometimes also for the 2016 Portugal arrived probably second in the group.
Third. They were third in their group.
Yeah, I still remember, and they came in the easiest bracket, and they arrived into the final with not so difficult game like the other part has. I remember I played round of 16 against Spain, quarterfinal against Germany. If we lost, but if you have won, we have the semi-final against France. And after 3 games of this level, it was impossible to arrive with energy at the end of a competition. We were a little bit lucky 3 years ago to have Austria, that at the end was the most difficult game with Spain for us, but it's not the same pressure. It's the different. Imagine to have round of 16 in Germany and quarterfinal Belgium and semi-final Spain. And maybe final England. You arrive at the end of the competition. I think that a lot of players has remained on the field with some injuries because it's impossible in the summer, end of the season, with this type of pressure, and also it's hot in the summer. Usually, it's very hard to manage.
He loves his football, Giorgio Chiellini. You can catch him on covering the Euros out this summer. His picks are in. We look forward to it. And if you're the kids, watch as much as you can, right? Watch as much as you can over the next few weeks.
Enjoy this fantastic month.
Giorgio, always great to see you. Thanks for joining us here on Inside LAFC podcast.
My pleasure, Max. Yeah, hope to see you soon.
Indeed, I'll see you soon. I'll see you very soon.
See you soon.
We will.
Yeah, but in the podcast. I mean in the podcast, not outside. Yeah, outside. Yeah, also in the podcast.
That's all the time we have for Inside LAFC podcast. Make sure you rate, review, download, subscribe. Tell a friend about it. We'll be back next week. We might even have a Copa America preview. Until then, so long, everybody.